Good morning.
You didn't think about that, did you?
No, I was Jim left the logo. It looked really good with the logo, better with the logo on screen than my face anyway. Good morning, Austin. Jim's having a Monday. Good morning, Austin. In case you couldn't tell, we are in the Austin studios of Adam versus the Man. And behind me, we have a special backdrop this morning. This is like a great way to start the show for the audio listeners who have no idea what's going on now. All right, so we have this cool wallpaper. It's got a bunch of faces of famous musicians on it. I thought the contest today should have been name all the faces on the wall, but Joey said that was too easy.
Too easy.
It's too easy.
Not
Too easy.
creative
First person in the comments here because someone's got this. So like is it 4?
So
1, 2, 3,
5.
4, 5 faces. And this weird repeating checker pattern where Willie Nelson and the guy from ZZ Top, no, Waylon, it's Waylon, right?
It's Waylon.
It's like he gets a full row, he gets a full column to himself.
He does have
You know, and then it's the guy from ZZ Top / Willie Nelson sharing a column, and then BB King and Janis Joplin.
Oh, Janice is off camera.
Is that
where you pointed anyway? But she's up there.
There. Janis Joplin, BB King. Yeah. Anyway, welcome to the show. Welcome to Monday. Welcome to the week. We are in Austin because I was getting interviewed for a documentary series about Barry Cooper, the one and only Never Get Busted, Cop Busters, Trip to Wellness, that Barry Cooper. And hopefully we're going to get him on the show, although he is in the Philippines time right now. But I think when we're doing the show, it's the middle of the night or like really, really late for him. But we're gonna get Barry Cooper on the show sometime this week. We got exciting guests coming on later today. We've got a COVID block. We've got, let's see, I should promote our guest properly here. Our guest today is Libertarian Party of Colorado Campaigns Director Greg Lauer. Not exactly one of the big names or faces in the LP, but one of the workhorses. And being a campaigns director, Libertarian Party of Colorado, we're going to hear about this role that I think he created or was created for him in the Libertarian Party of Colorado. He's a lifelong little L libertarian who recently joined the party. He's been on the city council for the last 7 years, working behind the scenes to scale back and eliminate restrictive code. Might be run for mayor in November. So Greg Lauer joins us later on in the show. Maybe we'll get him on for a longer block. We've got him scheduled for the short interview today. I don't know if you want to see if you can make that happen, Joey. But Joey's with us in studio.
Hey.
Jim's with us from Phoenix. She's got a comment contest, but before we get to that, producer notes.
What's going on? Good morning. Yeah, as you can tell, you called it, nailed it. You can tell I'm having a Monday. I apologize for that. I don't know why the logo didn't go up, but then I figured it out because I didn't put the other one up. Join us, t.me/Adam versus the Man. That's the public Telegram channel that you can join the conversation for the show. All the links that we go through from the show, like I remind you every day, the links are in the show notes at t.me/Adam versus the Man. Our comment contest today is going to be a fun one. So if you do win that, you're going to win access to the Private Producers Club, which gives you access to the backstage to hang out with us every day if you wanted to, and just some extras. And that's where we come up with the links that we're going to talk about daily. It's one of the places. But if you want to just buy your way to the Producers Club and not have to worry about winning a contest, you can just go to patreon.com/Adam versus the Man. We got $1, $5, $10, and $50 a month packages. $10 a month is the sweet spot. We call that the Better Patron package. That's going to get you access to the Private Producers Club I mentioned. Once you're a member of that Private Producers Club, you'll get 15% off and free shipping on all the merch at our store once that's up and available at adamversustheman.com. So look forward to that and keep that bookmarked in your tabs. After that, we have an affiliate program with cigarfederation.com. Excellent website with exotically flavored cigars for you to choose from, including one that's CBD infused called the JSK Nugs. At cigarfederation.com, you can use promo code ADAM10 to get 10% off your entire order there. So definitely check that out and take advantage of that. After that, if you're looking for some visual stimulation, you can go to Instagram and type in @the Garden of Freedom. You'll see all the pictures and videos, the beautiful sunsets and sunrises, cool side profile shots of Mr. Vallejo there. All kinds of stuff on Instagram for you to check out @the Garden of Freedom. So definitely get yourself following that page so you can keep up with any of the new stuff going up there in Gardenia. Next, the crypto6.com. You've heard us tell you about the Bitcoin church that was raided. We've had guests from this situation on the show. So please visit the website, write to the people still in cages, and scan the QR codes to donate different cryptocurrencies you might be flush in to help those guys out with their legal battles and everything. Lastly, GoGreenEnergyOnline.com is the best website we send people to for people that are trying to do it themselves, the do-it-yourselfers that are looking to get into solar power or micro wind power or need to know stuff about zero energy homes. You can use GoGreenEnergyOnline.com. It's a great website with great resources and great knowledge base on everything self-sustaining for energy. So get yourself involved and good times. Here we go. Back to the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the set number 2 in the Austin, Texas studios of Adam versus the Man this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Joey Lee in the co-host chair this morning. Hey, look, she even came up right where I was pointing on the screen. Movie magic. Thanks to producer Jim. Joey, it's Mental Health Monday. We have a woman who is very protective of her mental health involved in our contest today. We have a picture caption contest. Is that right? For a comment contest today?
We do. I mean, our listeners are so damn creative. I'm looking at these comments every day, 5 days a week, and they just come up with great stuff. So I'm going to challenge them today. Instead of the comment contest, we want you to meme this picture I found on a friend's Facebook page. It's not been memed. He legitimately saw this in his town, which slipped my mind right now. Should have researched that, but it definitely deserves some memes. So comment contest is a meme contest. Best meme wins and gets posted on all the Adam versus the Man branded social media.
Well, Ed's already got. Well, that's the last time they asked me to wear a mask. I mean, she's walking through a parking lot. I'm thinking, truck? No, I'm looking for where I parked my tank. And for the audio audience, you want to describe this picture?
Oh yeah, we've been on. So this little old lady who can't be any taller than myself, like 5 foot, little hunched over, is walking.
Oh, she's shorter than you. She's way shorter than you.
Walking through a strip mall parking lot, holding a semi-automatic weapon that is at least a foot larger than she is. You say a foot? What kind of gun is that? You're the expert.
Oh, put it on screen again. Get my firearms examining devices out here. It looks like I gotta zoom in to be able to tell for sure.
Okay, maybe it's not a foot larger than her.
No, but it's
like 6 inches.
She's carrying it normally, and the barrel's 3 inches over her head.
She has her keys in her hand, just casually looking for her or tank or.
This is like begging to be memed. Yeah, totally.
So meme it and make sure you put CC.
But you don't meme it. You just give us the caption.
Give us the caption.
Yeah, caption it. All right, Joey, are we organized enough here to smoke some COVID vitamins? We do have a couple mental health stories today we are going to get to. They are important. One about Woebot and one about 9/11 responding differently to mental health crises. And it's like about goddamn time. So I'm really glad Mercedes found this story for us. This is from yesterday, CBS News. So we're gonna come back to this, but first let's take some COVID vitamins and dispense some misleading medical information, shall we? One of the most insidious techniques that government is using, and the conspiracy of conspiracies is employing during this whole COVID crisis, is deliberate confusion. And it's okay for them to get away with lying, right? I mean, it's not okay, but I mean, like it's small potatoes for them. Like they've already engineered the system. You know, people can lie and get reelected to office, and it's never a problem. I mean, it's rarely. I almost even want to take that back, because it's becoming more and more of a challenge for politicians to get away with lying the way they used to in the age of the internet. I used to talk about John McCain as the classic example of this, like a guy who got elected to office before the internet. And then I was like, oh shit, now I gotta, they're gonna make YouTube videos of me saying one thing one day and another thing the next. The thing with the vaccines right now and COVID in general, it is this giant complex issue, and it is a new threat being raised by government that we're supposed to be afraid of, according to them, right? I would hope you would be able to decide what to be afraid of for yourself, or at least take Churchill's advice, nothing to fear but fear itself, so stop being afraid. It doesn't help anything to be afraid, but they know that we are manipulatable through that fear. And confusion is something else to be afraid of in and of itself. I mean, I'm afraid of death, right? But I'm more afraid of living confused my whole life and then dying. Wouldn't that be a terrible fate? And government gives us that in spades. And now it's about COVID and the vaccine, and it's this giant abstract thing that we have to view through the lens of the media. I mean, have you ever seen the vaccine? Have you seen? Oh, well, you saw the digital recreation of it, the 3D drawing. Have you ever seen? Have you seen someone? Have you seen thousands of people dying of vaccine? You don't see these things. These are things that are given to you that you have a sense of through the media, through people relaying that information, who always have some kind of bias. I mean, I have one. I don't pretend like there's no such thing as objective media. There's no such thing as objective news. That's ridiculous. So when it comes to the excuses already that I'm seeing to be a Karen, a petty tyrant, to fire people, to exclude people, to print $1.9 trillion, whatever you're using COVID as the excuse for, I fear that in the long term, it's going to be something that people have a hard time admitting they were wrong about. And I mean, I understand it. Can't blame them. It's not fun. I mean, I guess, I kind of want to, I think the better way to admit that you're wrong is to find out a way to make it fun. Like, oh shit, I was wrong. Well, this is fun. I get to figure out like why I was wrong, and like what was, and I get to improve the function of my brain and live better because now I'm less wrong about things. That'd be nice. But the excuses are going to be around, are going to sound like, oh, well, it was out of an abundance of caution that we enforced mask policy the way that we did. And we understand that, yes, you can point to these longitudinal statistics now that show there was a generation of children traumatized by their experience with COVID unnecessarily. Oh, yes, you can show that there's a stunting of education and growth for children who were forced to stay at home during this time. But it was worth it. We did it. We didn't know. And then, okay, so, maybe we screwed up a little. Maybe the cure was just, I don't really agree with it. Just a little bit worse than the disease, but we didn't know. We did what we had to, and we were proud of how we responded. And do you see that? That's the dark side of humanity responding to what it's doing now. In hindsight, I hope just a year or two from now. So bringing it back to the present, because the current question that I think is most relevant for me and for the audience is, is the vaccine and navigating the policies around them, right? Do you get the vaccine or not? Do you get a passport? Do you get permission to whatever? Joey and I, we went into a store the other day, and someone said, "Hey, are you guys vaccinated?" Because we weren't wearing masks. Staff was wearing masks, and they just asked, "Are we vaccinated?"
They did not specify.
There's a lot of token compliance too, which is really kind of sad, because the people going along with the token compliance do so not realizing the negative impact of what they're doing and creating this environment and feeding into this hysteria. But I get it. Hey, the store says, the corporate headquarters say, well, no, if someone says they're vaccinated, you can let them walk around the store without a mask. I mean, that was the only place we ran into that, and that was in Vegas. I'm not even going to mention the store because I don't want to, I don't want to draw unnecessary scrutiny to that store, those individuals. But they were told, other than, hey, are you guys vaccinated? Yeah, I was in the Marines. I'm so vaccinated that I glow in the dark. Yeah, okay, cool. You don't have to wear a mask now? Yeah. Joey, how many vaccines have you had in your lifetime?
I don't know.
More than
a few dozen.
Yeah, just
of course I'm vaccinated.
Mainstream modern American healthcare. You got all the shots as a kid. Okay. But now we look to the COVID vaccine itself. And should you take it? And my position remains unchanged. And that's I want to be keeping up with current events to make sure that if this changes, that I should let y'all know that there's something else that's entered into my calculus to say, hey, policy is different. Now, when I say my policy, it's if you have a good reason to take it, if it is essential to make your job, your life somehow easier, if you've done the research on a vaccine and feel safe with that one being the safest one for you based on your medical history, or you've assessed the risks, you've made an educated choice, and you don't plan on having kids. If those things are true, and you can weather the possible side effects, yeah, get the vaccine. It's not that big a deal. Like they could be, and there is like, so when I talk about spectrum of vaccines perspectives, that's what I'm going to look. This is what we're talking about today, because I'm not here to say I'm an expert, I'm a doctor or biomedical researcher like Dr. Mary Ruwart, who we interviewed last week. Let's see, Maddie Fatty weighs in. My sister lost her unborn baby a day after vaccine. Shame on you for downplaying what's going on. Wow. Okay. Well, see, I'm not, and I appreciate the shame on you part here. Yeah. Okay. Let me address that. Am I downplaying what's going on with the vaccines? No, not at all. And I would say that what Dr. Mary Ruwart told us last week, that there were about 4,200 vaccine-related deaths reported in the vaccine adverse reaction system, the federal whatever, not very effective system. And what she pointed out that was so important is that we don't know what that real number might be. Because when you look at past vaccines where we know the adverse event reaction rate from actual long-term, studies that are as thorough as modern medicine can muster, the reporting rate is somewhere between 1 in 10 and 1 in 100. And that's really, I mean, if we go, that's the trend. It means that number of 4,200, it is, I mean, at least 42,000. Still not as many as died as the vaccine or died from the virus itself, allegedly. Although I would say now we're kind of ballpark, right? And yeah, like it could be a year's worth of flu deaths. God old 55. We don't know long-term risks, and we are in the infancy stages of testing. That's what I'm saying. If you don't want to have kids, and you can make that health sacrifice decision for yourself. But other than that, I mean, I'm setting the bar pretty high. When I think about this for a second, when I say you have done your research, you have a compelling reason, and it doesn't conflict with your health history, and you don't want to have kids in the future, how much of the population am I saying actually should get the vaccine? Essentially zero. But should get the vaccine because what's a compelling reason, right?
Your job tells you to, and you have no other options of jobs in your entire existence.
Which means you fucked up to be in that situation. But hey, let's put it like this. Joey, you dealt with this with your custody shit. And this is a real pressure that real people are facing, which is why I have to say, like, put the vaccine in perspective. I'm not going to dishonestly fear monger on this and be like, be afraid of the vaccine. There's no reason to ever take it. But like, for your kid's custody, would you take the vaccine if you found yourself in that situation? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I took a bunch of drugs. I didn't want to pay for that.
Yeah, and then you think, what if it's, and let's give sympathy for the cogs here. You got a 9 to 5, you got a mortgage, you got a wife or a husband, kids in school, and if you lose your job, that all falls apart. I would say you fucked up by becoming that dependent on the man, right? If you went that way with the, you fucked up. But now that you find yourself in that situation, should you take the vaccine? Probably. If you can do it safely. If you can't do it safely, then see what you can do to fight to play your medical considerations, right? McMaster 4848. By the way, Norway is really good at vaccine reporting on adverse reactions. Oh, here we go. AstraZeneca clotting is about 1 in 20,000 according to them. So there you go. So if it's 10 to 1, so that 4,200 would look at like base risks. And again, this is the thing, that the uncertainty, and this is what you guys are helping me get to my point here. Mega Man X4 Norway said vaccine is more dangerous than COVID. Okay, so it's on that scale, but hey, more dangerous than COVID? that's still not that dangerous. Like, you have more of a risk from being thoughtless about your food habits, your sleep and exercise routine, than either COVID or the vaccine. I'm almost embarrassed that we're not talking about, I'm not talking to my audience about like how to lift weights and be healthy more effectively, instead of talking about, should you make this one health decision? But there's a lot of pressure on it, right? COVID is no worse than flu. I was sick for 2 weeks. In fact, it is used to coerce injection is insane. Yes, absolutely with you there. But now here's the thing. We say less dangerous or worse than the flu. From your own experience, I mean, 2 weeks, I mean, I don't even get the flu. Like I would get colds and like, because of my allergies, like upper respiratory stuff occasionally, but like an actual flu, like full respiratory or like even body symptoms, like what we have traditionally thought as the flu. Like, and I used to travel and I still travel a lot, I guess, but I used to tour like and shake hundreds of strangers' hands every day and not get sick, not like whatever. If I got someone with the flu, which is like a day or two and pass. But the thing is, you can't make that statement yet. And that should piss you the fuck off, that you cannot make a statement to say COVID is more dangerous or less dangerous than the flu. It should really piss you off, because this is where I'm saying a spectrum of perspectives and the deliberate confusion here, and how you have to sort through this for yourself when you see there are some people saying, hey, the vaccine is totally safe, and some people saying the vaccine will kill you and make you infertile in a few years. Oh, shit. Well, hey, maybe you should follow Adam's advice and just fucking wait if you can. Because being susceptible to, I've heard people say, like I'm susceptible to COVID because I'm old or I'm immunocompromised. Well, then practice hygienic isolation. It's way safer than getting the vaccine. To me, that's not a compelling reason. Real lawyer, autoimmune dependent enhancement's a real thing. Vaccinated will die soon.
Real lawyer.
There are a lot of fear mongers around this right now who are going to be discredited, and I will not be among them. There are a lot of people, right? And it is, I understand there's a really compelling motivation to scare people about the vaccines when the establishment is scaring people about a virus, and we want to say, no, don't be afraid of that. And they say, well, take the vaccine. You shouldn't be afraid. And we say, well, be afraid of that. It's like, no, you don't have to be afraid of the vaccine. Be afraid of the social pressure around it. Be afraid of the bullying. Be afraid of potential side effects for your loved ones who don't know better than to wait. And that's a scary thing, but we do want to protect people. We do want to share this perspective and say, hey, look, enough people have gotten it. There's no urgency at this point. You should wait. And the thing is, this is what I'm advocating is actually an extremely mainstream perspective by actual public opinion, which we'll come to in this block again. Psychic Jackson, what about the veterans that needs a medical procedure to live, but the VA won't do it unless he or she is vaccinated? Yeah, so that's another example of like just, a really fucked up situation where you go, I'm dying. I could stop this. I could live if those people help me. The only way they will help me is if I let them put a vaccine in me. And hey, you're going into surgery. I want you to think this through in advance, right? Because some people are going to find themselves in this situation in the near future. If you're going into like a life or death situation, and the people who have been allowed to practice that surgery in your area or wherever you are have already made their compromise with the system and gone, yeah, this is a vaccine area. If you're not vaccinated, you can't come in. I mean, if you can say, you know, I've got a medical reason, or I've got what, if you can talk your way out of it, yeah, do that. And that's probably better practical advice, whereas like how to talk your way out of it. Say, I have a medical exemption. And for me, it's actually legitimate, but anybody could say what I say in an emergency. Seven Sons vaccine coercion seems like a violation of human rights, whatever the safety level. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's more humane to forcibly isolate you and you know, make you go to a leper's colony if that's what's like going to come out of this, right? But to talk to be able, is this light flickering, dear?
It is. It's very weird, isn't it?
Is it not plugged in? Or is it the light bulb because we shook it? We're in a hotel room and improvised set here.
It's ghost.
I think it's because I was hitting the table and the light was flickering. Anyway, back to the important subjects at hand here, right? So in making that decision, if you have said, okay, look, I'm willing to defend myself against forced or coerced injection by deceit, right? Is to say that you can lie and it's justified because people are threatening you with unjustified force. It's like if someone points a gun at your head and you go, look, an airplane, to distract them and then knock the gun out of their hand, you're not like guilty of lying to them because there's no airplane. So similarly, in my case, I don't mind saying this publicly because it's entirely legitimate and true when it comes to me. I've had severe allergies my entire life. Let's just say kind of on and off as your immune system grows and fluctuates. And I've had different treatments that have been effective at different times. But I've had to take shots. When I was a kid, I took immunotherapy treatment where they give us a box of syringes, like a plastic tray box of syringes with a lid, and keep it in the fridge, or did we do it? I don't remember. Keep it in the fridge at home. And every week, and I felt like a badass. I was like, what, 9, 10 years old. I give myself a shot in the thigh, you know, every other thigh, and that helped, and my stuff adjusted. And then a couple of years ago, I did another course of immunotherapy through the VA. Now they don't let you do the shots at home. I go to the hospital carrying an EpiPen to get a shot and sit there. And it's really sad they don't let you do that anymore because, you know, someone had a bad reaction this one time. But that's like, whatever it is, you want to tell me to take a shot when the medical establishment is telling me that I can't even give myself a shot at home because of the potential allergic reaction with this? Like, no, I'm legitimately concerned that any of these vaccines, if I'm not tested personally for having an allergic response to all of the potential ingredients, which I don't think is possible when I'm talking about an mRNA vaccine, I don't know, over my head science already, right? But I'm not. Why would I do it when the risk of COVID is that, and if everybody else is getting the vaccine? So when I say spectrum of perspectives, I'm going to show you that in the news now. We're going to start with the Associated Press to kick off our COVID block headlines. AP heart reaction probe as possible rare vaccine link contained. This is establishment media, super credible, Associated Press, verified sources. And I wonder about this headline. Are they trying to scare you and say heart reaction? We have now it's official to the mainstream media. There is a potential negative link with the COVID vaccines, or is it, oh, don't worry, it's rare, and we're looking into this, and the mainstream media is on it, and the scientists are on it, and so if there's going to be an adverse reaction, we're keeping track of it. You're going to know, and it's very rare, so it's totally safe. And you go, well, you could interpret this either way. And this is the danger. This is of subjective analysis, the temptation that we all face in looking at the news, of imposing preconceived notions, of bringing in our biases into how we read these headlines. So let's get into the story. Health authorities are trying to determine whether heart inflammation can occur along with many types of infections. It could also be a rare side effect in teens and young adults after the second dose of COVID-19 vaccine. An article on 7 U.S. teen boys in several states published online Friday in Pediatrics is among the latest reports of heart inflammation discovered after COVID-19 vaccinations, though the link to the vaccine has not been proven. The boys aged 14 to 19 received Pfizer shots in April or May and developed chest pain within a few days. Heart imaging tests showed a type of heart muscle inflammation called myocarditis. None were critically ill. All were healthy enough to be sent home after 2 to 6 days in the hospital and are doing pretty well, said Dr. Preeti Jaggi, and every professor, infectious disease specialist who co-authored the report. Now, separately, I will say, given what we know about COVID, or what we think we know, or what the authorities are telling us about COVID, the risk of young people getting infected or suffering significant side effects from the virus itself is negligible, like statistically negligible, not even significant, negligible risk for what people under 20. I mean, even under 40, the risk, and thankfully I'm in that category. But even it's under, it's not, the numbers don't creep up. And remember, we saw the breakdown. We haven't looked at this for a long time because this is now just assumed knowledge that we have to keep reminding people of for some reason, that if you look at the categories of deaths by age, it's like the only significant numbers are, you start at 60 plus, 70 plus, 80 plus, 90 plus, and below that, even for people in their 50s, the numbers are insignificant. But as we know, unfortunately, there are a lot of Americans still in their 50s who have aged like someone in their 60s or 70s because they don't take care of themselves and are more vulnerable, and their immune systems are weaker as a result. And still, the number didn't creep down into that demographic. But when you get into like the under 20 demographic, it's undetectable, essentially. They've even said that schools aren't vectors for transmission because kids don't get the virus in a way that they're symptomatic, as they are with so many other viruses, so many other bacterial infections where they're sneezing, coughing, whatever, wiping booger. What do kids do with boogers these days? You still like spit them through straws and like flick them at each other. Do they eat boogers? Is that a thing? Kids eat boogers, right? Kids eat boogers.
Humans eat boogers.
So what is this that we're doing as a society to our kids by saying, oh, well, now we're giving them the vaccine? That adults, rather than wash their fucking hands and be careful with their hygiene, would rather inject their kids and grandkids with an experimental vaccine. Now, if there was a compelling reason, again, like the experimental vaccine is like not that dangerous. I'm not trying to fearmonger about the vaccine, at least from what we know right now. Could be some, who knows what, long-term health effects. But it's not like, hey, rather than maybe die, we're going to give our kids this experimental vaccine. It's like, rather than wash our hands and be hygiene conscious as we should have been about the flu all these years anyway, rather than do that, let's inject our kids with this shit. And now it's not that simple because no one's consciously saying that. It's the super class, the string pullers, the policymakers, the executives of big pharma who pull the strings for politicians, who are determining this policy and misleading you about these basic facts and hiding this perspective. Sarah Goldman, there's something like 5,000 deaths in Harvard study proved VAERS only reports 1%. For you to say that's fear mongering, you're the same thing as CNN. No, because I'm going based on what well, see, it's funny because the CNN would say that what I'm doing now is still in the category. Anything that's out of the orthodoxy is fear mongering about the vaccine. People will
misleading information.
My brother would watch this episode and be like, Adam, you're really laying on the vaccine fear pretty thick there, bro. And it's like, no, I'm going by what we talked about with Dr. Mary Ruwart last week. And she's a biomedical researcher, and she's done a lot of stuff already in exposing this in this analysis. And she's cautious, but she's angry. Maybe not as angry as I am. And again, you should be pissed off that there's this much uncertainty, that there's this much of a margin we have to look. Like when you say, how dangerous is the virus and how dangerous is the vaccine? You don't get to say with certainty, it's here, it's here. You can draw a bell curve of possibilities. So let's get back to the bell curve of possibilities I'm trying to draw with the vaccine, right? Because we don't know. And when she said there's 4,200 deaths in VAERS, and you said that, yes, there's a Harvard says there's only 1%, that means that for deaths specifically, it's not that bad, but it's between 1 in 10 and 100. It could be as bad as that historically. So it could be that 4,200 dead reported from the vaccines in VAERS right now is actually 420,000. Yeah. And that would be a lot. But as has been pointed out, there are other countries with vaccine reporting systems that are better than in the United States.
No.
And it's not like in one country they're acknowledging that everybody's dying. So I have a hard time believing it's that bad right now. Now, the scary thing is that doesn't discount the possibility of people dying later and being able to prove that it's connected to the vaccine statistically, chronologically, by what have you analysis. But as Dr. Ruwert acknowledged, I would say admitted, because we're not trying to make you afraid of the vaccine. If the vaccine was safe, we would say just then don't force it on people and don't make me pay for it. But the safety is an issue, and it is something they have lied about over and over and over again. Why would we expect that these people are suddenly being truthful? But as she says, that 4,200, it could also be overreported. There's a slight possibility, and that would take it down from maybe 1 in 10 to 1 in 5 or 1 in 2. And you go, well, all right. Then even if only a fraction of what they've said have died from the virus, actually died from the virus, and we know that it's some fraction. It's not we know that number is inflated. We've seen the inflation of that number. Lots of reasons to inflate that number. No shit. You have to go down from what is that in doing this analysis. So to the next perspective, because this is the relatively mainstream perspective. It's like, okay, it's happened. There's blood clotting is a thing, and myocarditis is a thing, and even in young boys, et cetera, et cetera. There's a spectrum of possibilities you have to look at. So let's go to the next one. When you see who's hiding what, like the people telling you to be afraid of the vaccine, or I wouldn't say be afraid of the vaccine, say be cautious about the vaccine. That's if you say be afraid of it. No, I'm not trying to make you afraid. You shouldn't be afraid of anything. Be afraid of government. You're going to be afraid of something. There. Yeah. Acknowledge legitimate fear. Be afraid of the vaccine? No. Be afraid of the virus? No. Don't be afraid of either of them. Be afraid of people using that to manipulate you, to fuck you over and continue to exploit you and lie to you as they have historically in all these major institutions of society as we know them today. Is that controversial even? Adam versus the man is boring now, right? Like,
you're going to be afraid of the vaccine. Be afraid because you're afraid, not because somebody told you to be, right?
Well, I am. I mean, I am afraid that if I were somehow pushed or bullied or coerced into getting the vaccine, that I might have a significant allergic reaction. I am afraid that there might be some long-term effects of the vaccine that we don't know about. And basically, we should stop taking it as soon as we're at some point of herd immunity. Like, goal shouldn't be 100% vaccination. It should be, hey, let's vaccinate priority-wise for herd immunity and actually stop. And I know you debate the idea of herd immunity, but you know what I mean in the sense that whether you want to call it that or not, when you get to a certain number of people being vaccinated, then the virus isn't active in society. Then it doesn't matter if the last few people are vaccinated. For example, if we had a virus that where the vaccine was dangerous to old people, and you say, hey, young people need to go get this vaccine to protect old people so that they don't have to get the vaccine. But you don't hear any caution and scaling. No, it's people are making money. 100% vaccination is the goal. All right, so to the censorship issue, aside from everything that we've experienced here with Adam versus the Man and on YouTube and people, it's just anything that is misleading medical advice or information that might lead people to be less obedient. I'm summarizing. That's not even translating. When we got censored on YouTube, it was for misleading medical information because it may lead people to be less likely to follow the advice of the World Health Organization and local health authorities. Okay, so it's anything that makes you less compliant, less obedient. That's what YouTube has decided is against their policy. So IndiaToday.in, mRNA technology pioneer says COVID-19 vaccinated people can shed spike protein. Twitter says delete this. Yeah, of course, Twitter in on the game. One of the pioneers of mRNA technology Luigi Warren's Twitter account has been suspended for now, and just can shed spike protein. That's not even, I mean, this is challenging corporate orthodoxy for a particular product that they are pushing on people. Luigi Warren tweeted that people vaccinated with mRNA-based vaccine can shed spike proteins. He added that the shedding is in minuscule amounts and hence cannot harm anyone. Twitter suspended his account on accounts of the tweet violating the rules. Now here, I think, like, this is pretty mainstream. This is like serving the mainstream narrative. Like, yes, the shedding is real, but it's harmless. Now, I have a hard time believing that it's perfectly harmless if you're actually shedding viral fragments, but if it's like insignificant, if it's like, I mean, you get the vaccine, if I lick the inside of your mouth thoroughly the next day, I might show some spike protein in me, like, and that's the risk. Okay. But if it's something that women are picking up on, as we know, pheromones and blood clotting, and the one of the rumors, and it's still sort of in the like the rumor is that vaccine shedding can cause women bleeding and blood clotting issues associated with normal woman stuff, you know. And it's only at the point, like, is it happening? Is it being reported? Yeah, that's a real thing. Is it psychosomatic? Is it possibly just something else entirely? Yeah, that's why I say it's just a rumor at this point. We can't confirm whether or not that's a significant side effect, but it is one of those that I am concerned about, and it fucking pisses me off that we don't know for sure. I'm not looking to be pissed off. I'm looking like, hey, can we have more? We have better reporting. We're capable of better than this. This virus has been out there, studied for a year and a half, and there's still so many unknowns about it. No, there's a massive manipulation of the information. So social media majors have been enduring a struggle against misinformation spread through their platforms for since long. As a coping mechanism, they have increasingly started to flag such fake information to their audience. However, this fact check does not always turn out to be as effective as it means to be. So in this case, there had to have been some human oversight. I don't know, is this an algorithm that catches these things now? But they said they gave them the option to remove it and appeal the violation. And I hate even talking about that shit. People say, well, Adam, you got a video, and why don't you appeal to YouTube? Because I want to make videos. I don't want to be in the business of constantly appealing to YouTube. It sounds like a fucking nightmare. And what they're revealing is these platforms. And I don't want to condemn necessarily Jack Dorsey himself, the owner of Twitter, right, founder, whatever, CEO, because who knows what duress he's under. We live in a world where governments can get away with some horrific threats behind the scenes, legal threats, right? Oh, well, if you don't do what we say, we're going to shut down your business. We're going to, you know, because the average American commits 3 felonies a day. I mean, the average American corporation is completely under the thumb of the American legal system. They can be manipulated at any time. But these platforms, do you blame Zuckerberg? Or do the Clintons have a gun to his head? There's some interesting theories there. Yeah, certainly someone is culpable somewhere at that level. And I think in the case of Mark Zuckerberg, he's got his, he knows what he's doing. But even then, it doesn't matter. These are not censorship-resistant platforms. How do we get past that? How do we defeat that? Nicholas Canada, they want no more organic, free-range humans. Yeah, well, too late for me on that one, right? But I can go free. I'll never be organic. But I can go free range.
I like the use of free range, like
free range
thinking,
humans.
free speaking, free range.
Well, it's like in the Matrix, there were the people who were born outside the Matrix who didn't have
the thing, and then there were
big
like the
plug in the back of their head. Yeah. Free range humans, all organic, naturally grown. But even in that world, in a world of underground pollution, no, I don't think so. So yeah, anyway, to the social media thing. What is being covered up? Who on what side of this debate? Debate spectrum of possibilities. I mean, false debate intended to set you up for confusion, perhaps. From the vaccine is totally safe side to the vaccine will kill you tomorrow side. Who's being censored? Who has a history of lying? I'll come back to that. The Defender, children'shealthdefense.org, not even the most of mainstream, possibly fear-mongering here. We go a little bit more down the rabbit hole. We made a big mistake. COVID vaccine spike protein travels from injection site can cause organ damage. Research obtained by a group of scientists shows the COVID vaccine spike protein can travel from the injection site and accumulate in organs and tissues, including the spleen, bone marrow, the liver, adrenal glands, and in quite high concentrations in the ovaries. Well, those are a lot of big words in that subheadline. That sounds very scary. COVID vaccine researchers had previously assumed mRNA COVID vaccines would behave like traditional vaccines. The vaccines spike protein responsible for infection and its most severe symptoms would remain mostly in the injection site at the shoulder muscle or local lymph nodes. Now, I'm not a medical researcher. I'm not an expert. I don't really care to be. I put this on Twitter as a potential smoking gun. Is this a smoking gun? And there were debates about, well, the vaccine this, the vaccine that, and people not saying which vaccine they're even talking about. But this is Dr. Byram Bridle, viral immunologist, associate professor at University of Guelph, Ontario. Quote, "We thought the spike protein was a great target antigen. We never knew the spike protein itself was a toxin and was a pathogenic protein. So by vaccinating people, we are inadvertently inoculating them with a toxin." Now, often wording like this will be presented to people who have a bias towards being afraid of government with an intention of letting your imagination run wild. We're inoculating them with a toxin. They want you to think that means inherently we're poisoning them. But no, inoculating with a toxin might be a good thing medically. This doesn't change the experience that we're having, the statistics right now. But we made a big mistake, potentially, by going ahead with this. I think we made the bigger mistake by overblowing the COVID threat to the point where pushing vaccines is this mainstream thing as opposed to just something on the side that people can be concerned with if they feel the need to. That was the big mistake, like way back down this chain of events. But this concept, this is really interesting. Bridle was awarded a $230,000 grant by the Canadian government last year for research on COVID vaccine development. Said he and a group of international scientists filed a request for information from the Japanese regulatory agency to get access to Pfizer's biodistribution study. Biodistribution studies are used to determine where an injected compound travels in the body and which tissue or organs it accumulates in. As Bridle said, quote, "It's the first time ever scientists have been privy to seeing where these messenger RNA vaccines go after vaccination. Is it a safe assumption that it stays in the shoulder muscle? The short answer is absolutely not. It's very disconcerting." But again, none of this changes my basic parameters of analysis, because one of the criteria is that if you're going to get the vaccine, do the research on the vaccine you're getting. Find credible sources who have reviewed the actual studies that have been done, and verify that these are legitimate sources before you let the government put something in your body. Okay? Seems like a very reasonable perspective that a lot of Americans are embracing, actually, and more than they would want you to believe. The Washington Post with this headline from MSN.com: "Vaccination rates fall off, imperiling Biden's July 4th goal." Plummeting vaccination rates have turned what officials hoped would be the last mile of the coronavirus immunization campaign into a marathon, threatening President Biden's goal of getting shots to at least 70% of adults by July 4th. Yeah, they're not even going to get to 70%. The United States is averaging fewer than 1 million shots per day. So that's a fuck ton of shots. How many shots? A fuck ton. At least a fuck ton and a half. A decline of more than 2/3 from the peak of 3.4 million in April. Did I say per month? That's per day. 1 million shots per day.
Oh, per day.
Did I say per month? 1 million shots per day. Yeah, anyway. 3.4 million shots per day in April, according to the Washington Post 7-day analysis, even though all adults and children over age 12 are now eligible. I want to take a moment to say, fuck the Washington Post. Fuck you. This is what you're tracking. You're also the ones tracking police deaths, also police shootings. Those killed from drone strikes, deaths due to pharmaceutical industry malpractice. No. Let's put these numbers. You're journalists. Society has one way or another, I guess, in your case, through buying stuff on Amazon to make Jeff Bezos rich so that he could buy the Washington Post. Somehow, one way or another, society has deemed that you are worthy of these journalistic resources. And you're tracking daily rates of vaccine shots so that Biden can meet his July 4th goal of 70%. And we may, or if he fails, we can make that important. Gary Espinosa, without vaccines, we would all be fine. Big pharmaceutical companies are trying to make up their losses. Their losses.
People not getting.
They don't have any losses. They only have. They have. Well, there's no bailouts. They don't need it. But they have periods of greater theft and lesser theft. There's no losses. Because what they've done, what they've done is stolen, with the intellectual property racket and corporatism, they have stolen humanity's ability to make good medicine that serves the people. And they have used government to prevent the people from pursuing that option. So yeah, in terms of big pharma, even when they're making good drugs that do good things, their very existence, as we know it, is criminal. Even though all adults and children over age 12 are now eligible. Small armies, if they thought it was safe.
For free, and they're giving them out the mall, remember?
Yeah, we thought our driver yesterday was Iraqi, living in the United States 6 years. You would think that guy would know not to trust the government, but for him, driving with Lyft, and you got the vaccine makes it, and I would not. I mean, you say like, if your job depends on it, makes your life significantly easier. If your employer is mandating or requiring or bullying you or threatening to fire you for not getting the vaccine, you should fucking quit.
Yeah.
I don't mean like a rage quit tomorrow, but find a way to get the fuck away from jobs like that. I guarantee you'll be happier. Small armies of health workers and volunteers often outnumber the people showing up to get shots at clinics around the country, from a drive-through site in Chattanooga, Tennessee, to a gymnasium in Provo, Utah, or a park in Raleigh, North Carolina. Sounds like a really bad party. The slowdown is national, with every state down at least 2/3 from its peak, and particularly felt across the South and Midwest. 12 states, including Utah, Oklahoma, Montana, the Dakotas, and West Virginia, have seen vaccinations fall below 15 daily shots per 10,000 residents. Alabama just had 4 people per 10,000 residents get vaccinated last week. They're tracking it on a state by state. Like this whole vaccine has turned a lot of people into chart nerds. But the picture and it's not that they're chart nerds, it's that they think that they're chart suckers. Remember, 867.5309% of all statistics are made up bullshit designed to manipulate you. And if people are throwing graph at you one after another, and the graphs might all be real and accurate and sure, but why are you looking at graphs of this instead of something else, instead of something more meaningful or relevant? So the picture varies considerably across the country. 13 mostly East and West Coast states have already vaccinated 70% of adult residents. And another 15 states plus the district are over 60% and will likely reach Biden's goal. The rest are lagging behind. Tennessee and 5 other states are 50% or below in vaccinating at such low rates that meeting the president's threshold is very unlikely. The steep decline began in mid-April, coinciding with federal officials' temporary suspension of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine while they probe rare blood clotting reactions. even if the shot is unsafe, they accidentally put out one that was not safe enough to be unsafe and widely distributed for their racket. That was a pretty big wake-up call, apparently, for a lot of people. But I think there's something even more to it than that. It wasn't just, oh, the Johnson & Johnson one is doing that. Yeah, we kind of suspected something was going to happen. But that there were only a certain number of people who were pathetically lined up eager to get the vaccine. Now, fortunately, they paved the way for the rest of us to not have to get it, even according to their own reasoning. Gallup.com, COVID-19 vaccine reluctant in U.S., likely to stay that way. In the United States, 64% vaccinated, 12% plan to be. 78% of those not planning to get vaccinated are unlikely to change their mind. I mean, what are the odds for me of like having a compelling reason to get the COVID vaccine? Yeah, pretty unlikely. So I am in that 78% there. 76, that's 78% of those not planning to get vaccinated. 76% of U.S. adults say they have been vaccinated or plan to be. That's have or plan to be. A number that has been stable over the past 3 months, but is higher than in late 2020 and early 21, because fear faded. And now they're showing statistically that there is a significant chunk of us, 24%, do not plan to be vaccinated. Among those not planning to be vaccinated, 70%, 78% say they are unlikely to reconsider, although including 51% who say they are not likely at all to change their mind and get vaccinated. And you wonder, you have to subtract people like me who, according to, like, who aren't doing it, like, well, I mean, I have multiple reasons, but like I have people who would get the vaccine. I wouldn't get the vaccine if it wasn't for my medical condition, for severe allergies. But for some people, that is the case, where it's like, well, I'd get it if I didn't have a medical condition. And now they're demonizing those people as not compliant enough. And that should tell you something, right? Now, the Chicago Tribune, also MSN.com, has this headline: many long-haul COVID-19 patients report improvements after vaccination, surprising experts. And usually they start the story with the story of Wendy French of Northwest Suburban Lake in the hills. Used to run 10 miles a day, several times a week, before she got COVID-19 in September, which left her fatigued and suffering from a variety of symptoms for months after the virus was supposedly gone. The previously healthy 45-year-old stopped running and even began dreading typical household chores, such as doing laundry, because it required standing up for so long that she grew tired. But after French got her first dose of the Pfizer vaccine in mid-April, she described feeling healthy for the first time in more than 7 months. The second dose in May brought greater improvement to her health. And the one thing that's not being talked about here, and I see this especially in the long haulers in cases like this, is what these people are really suffering from is hypochondria. Now, if you're like, before I try to explain hypochondria and they're imagining this shit, okay? A hypochondriac. Let's see, should we define hypochondriac by Google or hypochondria? Hypochondriac is a person who's abnormally anxious about their health. Hypochondria, specifically, illness, anxiety disorder, abnormal anxiety about one's health, especially with an unwarranted fear that one has a serious disease. But there's actually more to it than that, because let's go to hypochondria or hypochondriasis. Hypochondriasis. From Wikipedia, a condition in which a person is excessively unduly worried about having a serious illness. An old concept, the meaning of hypochondria is repeatedly changed, has been claimed that this debilitating condition results from an inaccurate perception of the condition of body or mind, despite the absence of an actual medical diagnosis. But the thing about hypochondria is that it can lead people to imagine that they have a disease, and they can believe that they have a disease. And there are other scientific terms for what I'm describing here. I thought the definition of hypochondria, maybe this is one of those words they've subtly changed the definition of over the years to set this up, because they don't want, the medical industry doesn't want to acknowledge hypochondria as a cause of legitimate disease. I mean, you can if you can fake something, your brain can fool you into something. There can be people with such a severe psychological detachment that they will imagine symptoms for themselves. And I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this is not something that I'm immune to, because remember, Joey, when we were traveling at the beginning of this thing, we thought that we had COVID. We were like, oh well, I'm going to wear a mask in case I might be infecting someone else because I've got this weird respiratory thing, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't COVID now. Mm-hmm. But even then, we go, well, was I tired this morning? Oh, I was a little tired this morning. Could have been a flu symptom, and that creates the thing about this negative mentality. I mean, the most important thing for your health is optimism and positivity and a good attitude. The most important thing. No, I think that comes after food, oxygen, water and exercise, shelter, clothing, things like that. But if you don't have, or if you embrace such a hypochondriac, deliberate negative attitude, you can trick your body into being sick. You're not experiencing physical fatigue, but your mind experiences your body as fatigue. And with these long haulers, when you have the social psychological dynamics built into this of massive fear mongering around the virus, of a special victim class for people who've gotten the virus getting created, about the sympathy. Oh, well, your thought, you do want thoughts and prayers? Thoughts and prayers? You too could be a COVID long hauler and get thoughts and cares. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers for the rest of your life. Oh, yes. Lots of sympathy. But in terms of the other social effects, theweek.com has this headline: the pandemic turned us into barbarians. The pandemic, yes. You have to wonder, after a year of playing to largely empty arenas, NBA fans have been welcomed back in larger numbers for the league's playoff games, only to see an alarming number of ugly incidents directed at players. In Philly, a fan dumped popcorn on the Washington Wizards. Russell Westbrook. In Boston, another man was arrested after throwing a water bottle at the Brooklyn Nets. Kyrie Irving. And in Utah, 3 fans were reportedly banned from the arena after racist taunts were directed at Memphis Grizzlies star Ja Morant. Fans got to grow up at some point. Brooklyn's Kevin Durant said after the water bottle incident, I know that being in the house for a year and a half with the pandemic got a lot of people on edge, got a lot of people stressed out. When you come to these games, you have to realize these men are human. And, aside from the emphasis on sports here as the analysis, let's take it as just an indicator, because for us to be talking about pro athletes and feeling sorry for them because they're getting popcorn dumped on their heads as opposed to victims of domestic abuse as a result of the lockdowns, I think we might be missing the point. CNN.com, SEMA U.S. hospitals marked first time being COVID-free. Others still see surge of patients. Dr. Rul Magadia and his team all gathered in the basement of their Anniston Hospital. Asked Anniston, Alabama Hospital last month for a big announcement he was preparing to make through the intercom system. That system is usually reserved for emergency codes, but Magadia, an infectious disease specialist at the Northeast Alabama Regional Medical Center, had other plans. He was about to share that in a few minutes, the hospital would discharge the last COVID-19 patients from their COVID unit. It was a surreal milestone, he later told CNN, for staff who have been on the front lines of the battle against the virus for more than a year. We were really aiming for some good news after 13, 14 months of horrible news. That moment, we had 0 patients. It's an unbelievable feeling. So, let's see. We are on the hour. We are a little past the hour. I'll take a break just real quick. Check in with Joey in the comments and see, do we have, I saw our guest, Mr. Lauer, was backstage very early for today's show. Was it just coming into a sound check? Is he hanging out? So, hey, we're going to wrap up the COVID block, then get to our guest. We'll wrap up. I think we have just, oh, yes.
We need to flash the picture once more.
Well, the picture. Yeah, for the caption picture.
For the comment content. And for those of you who didn't see the picture, or put up the link, you can go to t.me/Adam versus the man to see the picture.
There you go.
If you miss it. But
it's like we know what we're doing.
It's crazy.
So one last story here, and then we'll check in with the audience for comments. Reuters.com. Here's the punchline. You want to know who's lying to you? Exclusive. Blackwater founder Prince takes role in COVID vaccine venture. Now, I know a lot of you don't understand why this is so important to me. Why this is so important to the story and understanding it. Blackwater, the mercenary group, the private security firm doing business in Iraq and Afghanistan, around the global war on terror, making hundreds of millions of dollars, first as Blackwater, then because of the massacre that they were responsible for in Iraq, they had to change their name to Z, as in XI, Z, the security company. And if you want to know who's lying to you now, all you have to do is think back to who was lying us into the war in Iraq. And now this headline ties it together because we see who is profiteering. Well, what do you fucking know? Erik Prince, the founder of controversial private military firm Blackwater and a supporter of former President Donald Trump, jumped into the COVID-19 business late last year with a deal to distribute an experimental vaccine should it be approved, according to 3 people familiar with the arrangement. Excuse me. And business records. Oh, excuse me. I must need some. It's just a touch of COVID. Do I need more COVID vaccines or less COVID vaccines?
This will make you feel better.
More. This will make me feel better because I don't know if I can even go on with the story. I mean, there's even a branding dispute. Privately held U.S. firm called Covax. That's Covax with 2 X's. Covax is unrelated to the similar sounding but better known COVAX, a global vaccine distribution program backed by the World Health Organization with 1 X. Wah, wah, wah. Is it a conspiracy? No, it is a conspiracy of conspiracies. And now, yeah, Erik Prince is getting in on the racket. I'm not surprised. Makes me need some COVID vaccine. Excuse me. Makes me need some COVID vitamins with which to wrap up our block today. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is. Oh wait. I'm sorry. Before I introduce the guest, we want to check out the comments. We have caption contest entries.
No, I was
nothing.
That was a motion at my computer.
That was a bad comment popping up. But no, I meant to do comments first. We're still getting to Greg early. So do we have?
There's no entries for the comment contest yet, unfortunately.
Jim, all right. Well,
outside of Ed's this morning, which I like, but no.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Getting that picture up on screen one more time. Granny with an AR through a parking lot in front of a big black pickup truck with her keys, like she's looking for a car.
Vehicle. We don't know what she's driving yet.
Well, it's probably a tank.
I would assume
based on her tactical posture and the menacing way in which she is carrying that firearm. I bet that's a grandma who drives a tank around.
She might be avoiding the vaccine.
Yeah, right. We're trying to not have it. It's a good way. I mean, if you live in a place where open carry is the thing, and you don't want to wear a mask because you don't want to compromise your health for stupid bullshit. I doubt people with an AR strapped to their chests get asked to put on masks very often. We're just going to assume that you have a medical exemption, sir. Yeah, okay. Well, if there are no captions, we're going to turn this back to the audience. Please give us your captions for this picture in your comments. You don't have to go make the meme and send it to us. No, we'll do that later, probably. Contest winner will get made into a meme for the Adam versus the Man stream for tomorrow. So with credit, of course. Always credit. So yes, caption it is the comment contest of the day. And what is else? Ed Vallejo, our guest booker and co-hosting captain, weighing in one of our private Telegram chats, saying that we have great Libertarian Party guests all lined up for the week. So that's very exciting. D. Vincent W. caption, I've got muzzle velocity fuckers. Not bad. Still not as good as that's the last time anybody asks me to wear a mask. But anyway.
I like Moose Girl just because it makes me think of Saturday mornings as a kid.
Okay. I like that. Be very quiet. I am hunting rabbits. But can we make it more relevant to the times or the photo? Like, be very, very quiet. I'm hunting Karens.
That's it.
We gotta say, and you spell Karens Kawens, so it's the right. Transliteration. That I don't got, but that was great, Joey. All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is Libertarian Party of Colorado Campaigns Director Greg Lauer. Sir, thank you for joining us early today and giving you the time to really get into what this role is. But first, to introduce you, you were elected to the state convention in May to this position. Consider yourself, of course, lifelong little L libertarian. Recently joined the party formally, and you've been on city council. We got to take the time to get into that and the backstory, how that happened in the relation to your Libertarian Party chronology. Do we have are there throughout the United States millions of undercover small L libertarians, working in city council? I think that's a little too optimistic, but Greg might be giving us the formula to achieve something like that. And so now the goal as the campaigns director, and just, if I may, Greg, a little background on the LP party affiliates. We have a national party. State affiliates are really the heart and soul of the organization that get things done at the state and county level. And at the state level organization, they often create new positions when they go, well, geez, the Republicans and Democrats have millions of dollars and tons of staff. Let's be creative with our volunteers and at least give them fancy titles so they're more motivated to work hard for free for the party. Is that kind of along the lines of how this position came to be, Greg? Your audio's off. You're being polite and muted on your own controls there. Not hearing you still. No audio from Greg. Could just be StreamYard, could be his thing. Still not hearing him. Greg, wait, I did hear something.
Yeah, can you hear me at all now?
Now we got you. Lima Charlie. Welcome to the show, Greg. So is that more or less how the position of Libertarian Party of Colorado Campaigns Director came about?
Years and years ago, that's how it came about. And
okay, hold on. Now we got audio, but it is no, stop. Oh, that's not me. Yeah, we're getting audio, but it's totally garbled. Greg, you want to step backstage with Jim? We'll do one of our grab bag stories and we'll come back to you. All right. So we've got for Mental Health Monday, 2 stories I want to cover. We'll see if how long it takes Greg to get back on the technicals there. So DNYUZ.com. Something bothering you? Tell it to Wobot. I understand you're experiencing a relationship problem. Is that right? Yes. Okay, I'm delighted that you want to work on this, Kay. I've got good and bad news for you. Which do you want to hear first? Good. The good news is I have very powerful skills that I can teach you. These skills have really helped a lot of people build better relationships. And the bad news? The bad news is that you would have to be willing to accept 100% of the responsibility for changing the relationship. Why? Because that's how relationships work, idiot. No, okay, well, as Wobot would say. Because you're only ever going to be able to have control over your part of it. Good advice. This conversation may sound like a fairly typical therapist session, but in this case, it was directed by Wobot, a therapeutic chatbot with a psychiatrist's couch, swapped for a smartphone screen. Now, I think this is really cool. I think like best application of AI, programming, everything that we can talk to something and just we have compartmentalized, we've made computers smart enough to function as therapists. Now, this isn't some like radical leap in and of itself. I mean, we've devised all sorts of devices and things to be therapeutic at different levels of complexity and interaction. But directly therapeutic conversationally, that is the leap in the development here. Now, Joey, do you have any concerns about people using Wobot, this technology, and having perhaps digital therapy assistants?
Who's the man behind the curtain? I mean, who is the Wobot? Is it AI? Can I trust that it's AI and it's based on some algorithm that I'll be comfortable that it's following, or can somebody hack it and start influencing me to do things I otherwise maybe wouldn't do?
Exactly.
Kind of like Facebook does. What?
Wow. Okay. But the technology. Then actually, Joey raises this big appropriate fear in this case, right? I mean, you're telling your deepest, darkest secrets to an app. Remember, we covered this. Was it Sweden? It was one of the Nordic countries had a national health program that had all of their therapists digitize and upload their notes so they could be shared. So someone from one therapist to another, and that's sort of a legitimate function, right? I mean, you would think like, hey, if I'm giving you therapy and you go, hey, Adam, you know, I'm going to go talk to some other counselor because I'm moving and I can't hang out with you every day. I mean, even if I was coaching you with the gym,
Yeah.
you know, I might say to your next, you know, personal trainer, hey, she really responds well to this. She needs encouragement in this, and she needs to work on that, right? But we're not really worried about that as being like revelatory or sensitive information. But if a therapist is saying, oh yeah, you know that thing that happened when she was a kid, and you know how she did this thing that got her arrested, and you know how she said this fucked up thing about her mom? Yeah, you're gonna know about yeah. But for a psychiatrist, if you're handing off a patient like that, notes are the way that they have that conversation. And then before the digital age, it's not that your notes were really more secured, but by nature they were more secure as written notes that would get passed around in records and sometimes scanned and faxed. Remember fax machines? The government still uses them, right? Requires you to send a fax for some things. D. Vincent W. Yeah, but ill-willed government agents can listen and there's no doctor-patient confidentiality. Exactly. That is the fundamental transformation of the digital age of medical records. Empty. If it's on the web, it's hackable. Exactly. And so here's my takeaway with this. Like because I use you know, some of the meditation apps, but even that I'm thinking like, is it that someone could know that I meditated to this theme here, thing there, or whatever? Like there is something that to me, like I love my phone as a connection device, but I recognize that connects me to all the sick elements of society as well. I never developed a meditation practice around any of these apps, except Pandora. Like I listen to music and stretch at the gym.
We got a comment on that.
All right. Oh, Granny Heemeyer! Yes! Granny Heemeyer trying to remember where she parked, 1054. That's right. Remember, Friday, June 4th, we celebrated as Heemeyer Day, Killdozer Day, as the anniversary of the death, as we remember Mr. Heemeyer, may he rest in peace, for launching the Killdozer, which was, I guess we would say, born and died June 4th, 2004. All right, just to wrap up the segment, get back to our guest, and we do have another story for Mental Health Monday in our grab bag. We'll get to here, but be careful using these apps. I'm very optimistic, but I don't think that I will ever feel safe interacting with a therapy app or even a meditation app that's involving. So like when I use a meditation app, what's the data it gets from me? Just I'm playing this track at this time. That's it, right? And my demographic. And that a lot can be extrapolated from that. That's kind of sensitive too, right? And these apps are not inherently designed for privacy. You know, they're inherently designed to be hacked. So they weren't hackable, government wouldn't really let them exist in the first place. Move with that much money? Well, no, you can't do that without government tracking it. But what do you think this is? Like the cocaine 80s? But no, this is, in this era, I think the potential for this technology needs to be separated from the internet in a sense, in order to realize its potential. If I'm going to talk to a device or an AI chatbot, it better be on an air-gapped device. And by that I mean like it's not connected to the internet. Now, it might be safe, like to say, okay, I'm going to get a therapy. Like, so I'm thinking there might be programs or devices that are going to come out this way that people can interact with securely, knowing that there is no transmission capability in the device, right? Like,
I
but
have
that's
reservations about
even that-
teleconference. I continuous therapy for about 2.5 years now. Love my therapist. Highly recommend it to anybody who's on
the
the fence.
telephone, yeah.
But telephone, I'm okay with. If I'm traveling, she'll call me. I don't know if that's more secure or not, but now since COVID, there's the teleconference. I'm not going to use any particular
Video
acronym,
call.
but the video conference, right? And she's aware that people may have reservations about that, which I do because it's hackable and still leaves. At least I can't speak.
Right. In that
the
sense,
option out.
a cell phone, not a cell phone using a digital thing necessarily, but the cell connection for audio connection, voice conversations is, well, maybe, I don't want to say because I'm not a security expert, maybe more secure than digital stuff that's easily hacked. I would always just go on the assumption that none of my digital communications are guaranteed to be secure. And in that sense, I look forward to the day when you can get the benefit of this technology without the anxiety of, oh, I'm connecting to the internet. Because you have to see it like everything, the whole world is touching your conversation. D. Vincent W.'s audio cassettes with an old tape recorder. Hard to get them to talk back. I've talked to tape recorders. They never talk back to
What
me.
about the good old-fashioned diary? Why do you need somebody to talk back?
Yeah, well,
You do, but why do you need a computer to talk back? You need a human to talk back if you're at that stage. In
I think the
recovery.
power in this is that most people get most of the benefit from therapy by just talking.
Yeah, even to
And
strangers
knowing-
who
yeah.
don't answer them.
Right. And it's and this is why creative expression, art and writing are so important in therapy in general, or as therapeutic practices, because it's a lot of anxiety, a lot of dis-ease, mental dis-ease, the mental disorders come from inarticulated thoughts or subconscious thoughts or fears that need to simply be examined and analyzed to be put in perspective. And if we never talk, right? I mean, this is why humans alone on an island make art and paint faces on volleyballs, right? You go, well, why? It's the opportunity to. It is essential to the way that the human consciousness developed, or consciousness has developed, that we have to articulate things as part of processing things. And the process of articulation, holy shit, I just like deja vu myself to 5 seconds ago.
Wow.
Yeah, right? Because I'm processing as I'm articulating, talking about this, and doing what I'm talking about while I'm doing it. Yeah. You 12381, grateful for my therapy dog.
We can talk
Amen.
to our pets. We don't need a robot.
Yeah. So this isn't about being mentally healthy or unhealthy, because I want to say that there will always be a need for talk therapy for people who don't have that for themselves. But yeah, Joey, I'm kind of with you in the sense that, like, long term for mental health practices, can humans just get so much better at managing our own brains that we teach our children to manage their brains as they grow up so well that they never experience what we know today as mental health issues? Yeah, absolutely. To the point that they don't need therapists. Yes, perhaps. Perhaps we will get to the point where talk therapists, as we know them today, as this form, will sit down for an hour, give money, controlled setting, is maybe it's not a thing. But art therapy, creative therapy, that will never not be a thing. Maybe it won't be therapy, but it'll just be how we process those deeper thoughts and emotions that are essential to realizing the potential of our intelligence. D. Vincent W. Auto Shrink replies, how does that make you feel? Or say more about that. Yeah. But hey, you know what? For a lot of people,
Need that.
that's what they hear from a blank canvas. That's what they hear when they see a guitar. That's what they are answering when they sit down to write a book, or in their diaries even. All right, so we have our guest switching devices. Now ready to try again. All right, let's see if we got audio and video clear with our guest, Greg. Greg, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
You sound like an alien again. It
Oh.
sounds like some kind of same microphone or signal interference.
Oh man.
Yeah,
This was the
no.
this would be my luck on the very first time I get to do something like this.
Well, hold on a second. Jim is saying he's good on his end, so it's just that I can't hear you. Like you're coming in like totally alien gargoyle to me.
Crazy, like Terminator.
But it's coming in okay to Jim. Unfortunately, we can't have Jim like live write me everything you're saying on the screen or something. Is there anything? Could it? Oh, hold on. Could it say something again?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I figured it out.
Weird.
You know what it was?
Learn something new every day.
It was so. I apologize. This is a technical glitch that is a consequence of us traveling. So normally I do have my phone plugged in and charging while I'm doing the show. Apparently, and in my studio on my solar power system, no problem. Here in this fucked up City Grid Electric in Austin, Texas, using their outlet on the wall here, I got some weird static, and I apologize. That is like.
I wish you could.
It's such but that I would even try that was like kind of cool. So, Greg, thank you so much for giving us so much of your time and patience this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Lauer, welcome to the show. So, Greg, if you remember that wonderful introduction, which we'll splice together later in post-production, how exactly did this position of I'm all thinking technical shit. Greg, how did this position of Libertarian Party of Colorado campaigns director come about?
Years ago, I can't even remember how many, but years ago, they were fighting for ballot access, and one of the volunteers practically killed himself doing yeoman's work to get constant ballot access. And it was kind of weird because in Colorado, it really doesn't take that much to get ballot access. But the state legislature was trying to cut a deal between the two major parties to exclude any third party from having continuous ballot access. And the idea was we'd have to regain ballot access every year. So then, in case that came up again, they created this position, and it's just been passed down every couple of years.
All right. So tell us about it. What does it do? Why is this an important role for the party?
Well, I've got a big moonshot goal behind it. And in general, it's important because we need to get as many good, solid libertarian candidates as we can. And in my opinion, we need to get them from the lowest level all the way up through the governor and then above, if possible. And we see that we're going to do that someday. So my role here at the state is, the way I see it, is to have libertarian candidates in every ballot slot for every voter in this state.
All right. So, I kind of want to come back to this, and I want my audience to always learn about LP activism in a way that encourages them to be more involved. So I will come. Don't let me forget. I want you to end with your pitch for the party and for candidates in Colorado, and really for everybody in the world to run for office. Well, I suppose, if you live in China, you probably should not run for office as a libertarian. I think it would be ill-advised for your health. But in most, we do want to say, I do want to point out that this is a global venue of activism available for most people around the world, and we have a lot of great international affiliates with the Libertarian Party as well. But city council. What city? How did that start? How do you sneak onto a city council, even as a small L libertarian?
You sneak on by I snuck on. I can't say this is going to be a winning formula for everybody, but I think it could. I snuck on by registering unaffiliated, and then that way I couldn't be attacked by either of the county parties for Democrat or by either Democrats or Republicans. And our race is supposed to be nonpartisan, but everybody knows who you belong to. So I changed my registration about a year out to unaffiliated. And then I just kept talking. And it's kind of a cheesy strategy, but I basically repeated Ron Paul's messages from 2008 and 2012 and tailored them to our city, our city is just loaded with liberty-minded people, but they've all been fooled into thinking they have to register as Republicans.
I want to go back to this core strategy. This very, very simple idea, and it's if you can pull it off, as Greg has, pretty darn clever. Basically, in a race where you can run as unaffiliated or it's a nonpartisan race, you run unaffiliated and you're under the fray, under the radar of political bullshit, and you can run a direct, be the nice, friendly, local guy kind of campaign. Whereas if you attach an L to your name, you got a target on your back from the beginning, right?
Yep. That was exactly what I had seen over and over and over. So I spoke a heavy-duty libertarian message without the L attached to the name, and nobody attacked me, and everybody listened. And I got letters to the editor published when some people couldn't get them published. I wrote letters kind of describing each of the three main points that I was going for, which was, hey, limited government should actually be limited. It'd be nice if we did that, even at our level. Things like we shouldn't always just throw new fees in there because Colorado's constitution requires that taxes go to the voters. So, of course, you go around that by putting new fees, and I don't think that's the right thing to do either. And then saying things like, well, at the time, a 12-year-long board that seems to have no end is not the right answer to our problems either.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of traction with those messages.
Now, I don't want to promote this as a general strategy that's always relevant, but it's a lot more relevant than I think libertarians recognize. And there's an inherent challenge we face by affixing a label to an ideology that's outside of the mainstream, because then you talk to someone in the mainstream, you don't think of remember, when you were in the mainstream, if you were so unfortunate at some point,
yep.
It was your identity.
Yep.
It was being your virtue, your worthiness as a human being that is being challenged.
Yep.
And so we have to be aware of that in terms of how it affects our introduction of what are new ideas to a lot of people. And Greg has had incredible success for this. So how does 7 years? What's that been like? Tell us about your time on the city council.
It's been the biggest learning experience of my life. I had no idea water law could be so complicated. Or that 6 people could be so noisy about the dumbest things imaginable constantly. But it's also been really, the way I decided to do what I really wanted to do was I went behind the scenes and worked with the staff. And I had found, our city code book was just as thick as the one from Colorado Springs, and they have literally 12 times the population we do. So I didn't see any reason for our city code to be 17,000 pages long when I first got in. So I've been going behind the scenes, working with the staff to get them, I'll identify an ordinance I want repealed or a piece of the code I want changed to either eliminate it completely because it's just so overreaching and so egregious that it's almost offensive to me, and is the best way to put it. Or to roll things back, or to move the code from even a minor like municipal court type situation into a zoning change, so that just one example, it used to be, I don't know how this even happened, but at some point in our city's history, if your privacy fence was over 6 feet and code enforcement measured it over 6 feet, you had to appear before the municipal judge.
Oh, geez.
Pay $100 fine and trim the fence down.
Wow.
And I just worked quietly with the staff to get that thing moved into zoning code so that it was 6 feet plus or minus some wiggle room. so that it was a percentage that, fences could be up to 7 or 8 feet now. And nobody's going to get code enforcement stopping at the door. Nobody's going to have to go before a municipal judge and pay $100 fine because their fence was just a little too tall.
So I hope the audience sees there's like a progression here. Introduce new ideas gently, show them how they benefit people's lives, and then now you're running for mayor this November. Is that right?
Yeah, that's. I hadn't formally declared. Some people are probably going to take this as my formal declaration, but I think I've done too much work over the last 7 years to just step out and just give it over to somebody else who has already declared they want to roll back a lot of our changes. And not to throw shade on any particular party, but we've had an awful lot of progressive left activists move up here from Pueblo and have already been pretty noisy about some of the things they want to put in place. And if I can at least stand in the way for 4 years or maybe 8, if I can at least stand in the way of those things just almost being automatic, that's what I want to do. Because our council has the potential to flip to a majority, very heavy-handed progressive in November.
Tell us more about the city, the population, the demographics, the political balances.
Well, it's the name of the city is Fountain, Colorado. We're a little bit south of Colorado Springs, maybe 10-minute drive south of Colorado Springs, about a half an hour north of Pueblo. We have a pretty mixed population, by and large, leans right or leans very, very liberty-minded. My favorite example is going up to knock on doors and a guy met me with his shotgun and pumping around into the chamber to ask me what I was doing there from the government. So I was pretty excited to meet that guy, actually.
Now, Fountain, just first perspective, 30,000 residents.
Yep, it's about
right?
30,000, somewhere between 30 and 32, depending on the latest estimate.
Now, how long have you lived there? What's your connection with the community?
Lived in the city for almost 10 years now. My wife was a teacher here. She's been a teacher in the city for 21 years. Moved to Colorado in 2001 and lived in, we've got some unincorporated El Paso County around us. And I lived there and kind of watched the way Fountain did things. And for a long time, it was watching the struggle between some people who really just wanted to be left alone to live their lives with no government interference, and this new group that was stepping in the way to try and be the government interference. And we moved away up to the Springs for a little bit because I was going to do some activism up there. And once I felt like the mission that I could possibly do up there was done, we moved back here and moved into the city about 10 years ago. And then I just kind of slowly became more and more active behind the scenes, spreading that liberty message kind of gently, hitting people from the right, from the right, and then hitting people that are on the left from the left a little bit, not even realizing that people had talked about that being a strategy. But that just seemed like the way to do it. Talk their language, but then lead them from there into this much better way of thinking about whatever the issue was we were talking about.
So I'm sorry I didn't phrase it more more for what I wanted an answer. But when I say, what's your connection to the community? Like day job, community involvement.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Where do you go? What do you enjoy in the city? What does it mean to you to be a resident of Fountain?
Now it means a whole lot more. We used to have to go somewhere else for almost everything. And after 7 years, we can now actually stay in the city. If you want to do something as simple as get groceries, you can actually stay in the city. Some of the bigger recreation stuff, you still have to go out, but what we've got is kind of a small town feel. So a lot of people really enjoy just connecting, getting together in the park. It's kind of weird. Our parks are always full. So there's
do you have a parks and recreation department in Fountain, Colorado?
Yeah, we do.
Sounds like a fun. I could move to Fountain, Colorado and get a government job working for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to be ashamed of myself if that happened, but yeah. But yes, we do, and we've managed to keep it small, even though, in fact, Tuesday we have another meeting, and they're going to be asking for more people to join Parks and Rec to cut the grass, and it's that constant fight. I mean, there's some things we need to get done, so I've had to budge a little bit on the budget. But I keep hearing that old phrase: you gain freedom by inches. You try for miles, you dig in to get feet, and then you take the number of inches you can get. So I've managed to keep the staff from growing hugely as our budget improved. I mean, there's been some requests to grow the staff by 15 or 20%, and we've really kept it down to, I think in the last 7 years, we've added a total of 6 people.
And there's a bit of an, existential debate around this idea of, going for miles and accepting inches as progress. In libertarians who see the world full of unethical institutions and say there's no reason to not get rid of them all. And the legitimate objection to the inch by inch argument is that, well, if we go for inches while they're taking feet, we're going to still be marching backwards against freedom. And there is that challenge, but there are two kinds of sort of scores that can be measured in inches. And one is in individuals whose minds you free, the way the paradigm is shifted by waking people up one at a time. And that a big part of your work in is not just what makes your work special is not that. The inches that you are winning are like actual practical measurable inches where people are saying, look, we applied this libertarian idea here and it made our lives that much better thusly. And you can show that, and what you're doing is just a beautiful example of that at a city level. So, Greg, if you could talk for a second though, how that translates then into being, if you're running for mayor of Fountain, are the residents going to be suspicious of you now that you're a Libertarian Party officer involved with state politics?
It's funny you should bring that up, because I made mention of that on my Facebook page and immediately lost a half a dozen friends. And there's been some interesting discussion in the background that I'm starting to hear that, oh no, this guy was an undercover agent all along, and now he's coming out of the closet, so to speak, and is going to try and wreak some sort of havoc on us.
Now, hold on a second. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this right, Greg. So, like, you're there as the unaffiliated Libertarian on City Council. You announced that you would be running for mayor as a Libertarian, or you announced that the Libertarian Party of Colorado stuff?
Just the Libertarian Party of Colorado, because we still have to run nonpartisan.
So it's interesting to say we liked you until we saw that you put an L next to you. Now, I just want to point out that we know in the course of advocating for freedom that there's going to be steps backwards in this process.
Yeah.
And if you have achieved the success of being a city council member, even in a city with a population of 30,000, and you have 5,000 friends on Facebook, and that's a sixth of the population of the town right there, that a lot of them are going to really like you, your ideas, and what you're able to do for them. But if you lose a small chunk, you knew that was there, and it might have been worth it, and it might even be, you can't even trust the conversation on Facebook. How many people were there as friends, as infiltrating your conversation? And maybe it's not as insidious or nefarious, but hey, I'm out of here. I don't like that. I'm going to use defriending you as a way to express my distaste. Man, I'm so glad I'm not on Facebook anymore. At least I'm not engaged that way. It is a toxic conversation, man. But thank you for braving it. So sorry, back to what you were saying though, the response and this transition, please.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be, the interesting thing is I immediately lose, half dozen or a dozen, quote unquote friends, and then get to engage almost at the exact same time, engage in some conversations with people that have been very productive and have started changing some hearts and minds, that have been those guys were deeply entrenched in their right-wing ideology or their left-wing ideology. A couple of guys who are still wearing their red baseball caps or still believe that at any point this year, Trump is going to be declared the rightful president. And I've been able to open up some conversations that have led those folks in a different direction, where they see what's really going on with their actual party that they're affiliated, and they are starting to change their mind on what they want and what they think is right and what they think is wrong with their party. And a couple have even flipped over and registered Libertarian in the last couple of weeks.
Nice. So, Greg, what's your pitch to candidates to run for office as a Libertarian in Colorado or anywhere else in the world except maybe China?
my pitch is that, we have for a very long time, the idea has been, let's get candidates on the ballot so we can build name recognition, and maybe, just maybe, we'll luck into winning something. And I think that's the wrong approach. I think our approach should be to play to win. And I think the way we play to win is we find people who have been marginalized by the two big parties, and we show them they're not actually politically homeless. They do have an option. And the way we show them they have an option is we talk to people that are in their community who think like we do. They're out there. We just don't know them yet. And it's easy enough to reach out and find them. I've got voter registration rolls with 42,000 people in Colorado are registered to vote as libertarians. So there's no shortage of people in various communities to reach out to and just have them talk to their friends. So I think we should be playing to win and not playing just to gain a little teeny bit here and there. So what I'm saying is, even if you think the position is too small to make a difference, it's actually not. I put a libertarian guy on the planning commission for El Paso County, and he has blocked about 19 new ludicrous restrictions that they were going to add to their zoning code in just the last 18 months. So even at levels like planning commissions and park boards, we can look at the way those things are done through a liberty lens and bring more freedom to people, even in the most unexpected way, or even just get the government a little bit out of their way and by default increase their freedom. So it doesn't even matter how small or how big the office is. I think it's time for us to play to win, and especially here in Colorado, where the last couple legislative sessions have just there's some ways to phrase it, but the last couple legislative sessions have actually, rolled in some pretty draconian stuff. About the only thing good that's come out of the last 2 or 3 years was the elimination of qualified immunity for a lot of people. But otherwise, we need some folks on the front lines, even if the front line is a monthly planning commission meeting that says your fence can be higher than 6 feet, for Christ's sake.
Yep. Awesome. Greg, thank you so much for your time and for joining us and your patience this morning. Let's see, comment from Empty. Keep on the Liberty fight, Greg. Fire indeed. You have the website you're promoting this morning, lpcolorado.org. Put in the state party first. Anything else you want to promote or say in closing, sir?
If you don't mind, we've already got a candidate who's running for Aurora City Council. They've got a pretty unique situation over there. I call him Joey Hamilton, but his name on the ballot's going to be Robert Hamilton. And he is running for City Council Ward 2 in Aurora. The interesting thing to me is I'm assuming he's going to get elected. And the reason I'm assuming he's going to get elected is this guy is a solid, liberty-minded individual who talks in a way, he approaches it not very confrontationally. He approaches it from a very friendly way and draws people into what he's doing. So I'm assuming he's going to get elected to represent, and he'll represent 89,000 people in just that ward in Aurora. And right now, what we found out is there's a special situation going on where he could be appointed to finish out somebody's term and then run in November for to have the seat formally. But he's running up against some people with some pretty deep war chests. So if anybody is of a mindset to help out a local, good, solid libertarian, please go to the site that's shown right there, rh3foroaurora.com, and throw some bucks in his direction. Joey, or as he's listed on the site, Robert Hamilton III. Joey is going to be a very, very solid libertarian mind and voice on a very left-leaning council that needs to be, frankly, that council needs to be controlled by at least one voice that opposes the constant infringement on their freedom.
Awesome. Greg, thank you so much for your work for the party. Carrie Espinoza, Aurora is a terrible place to live, more crime than all of Denver. Well, definitely ripe for showing the immediate fruits of applying libertarian ideas. Greg, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this, Adam. Thank you.
All right. Back to the grab bag. Always fun to hear from the Libertarian Party of Colorado, though. Gosh,
I love them.
there are a few affiliates that let's say punch above their weight. Is that what we're trying to say? Yeah, they punch above their weight in terms of libertarian activism. Colorado LP is definitely one of them. All right, so we got a fun grab bag. We're gonna see how far we get into today after talking about the Woebot. I got a big I told you so from the Wall Street Journal. FBI director compares ransomware challenge to 9/11. Remember when this started? I told you, I said the ransomware is going to be the next terrorism. This is going to be the next thing and even like I couldn't have written this headline better to prove myself right. FBI director compares ransomware challenge to 9/11. First, I want to say, please go fuck yourself. Christopher Wray points to Russian hackers, calls for coordinated fight across U.S. society. Hey, everybody, there's this new evil in the world that you can't see, but only I can fight. So fight with me and let's be unified and give me lots of money, power, authority, and blow smoke up my butt because I'm cool and I'm going to save you from this new bad guy that I probably created myself. FBI Director Christopher Wray said the agency was investigating about 100 different types of ransomware, many tracing back to hackers in Russia, and compared the current spate of cyber attacks with the challenge posed by the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. Quote, there are a lot of parallels. There's a lot of importance and a lot of focus by us on disruption and prevention. There's a shared responsibility, not just across government agencies, but across the private sector and even the average American. Be afraid, be very afraid. Now we have another like double story feature. I think we're gonna have to come back because we don't have enough time in today's show. Former Fox 10 anchor Carrie Lake announces run for Arizona governor. We might be having her on the show. TMZ with this headline: pants on, ass backwards, looking like a no-fly zone. Yeah, this is funny. Donald Trump's pants stole the show at his speech. And it looks like when I first saw the picture, I saw a crease there. I didn't see that there wasn't a fly, but it's just a seam. You got this picture up on screen there, Jim. What do you think? Did he put his pants on backwards, or does he just have like a massive fupa and wrinkle his pants funny when he sits down? I think it looks like he put his pants on backwards.
It looks like backwards pants to me.
But that didn't occur to me. At first, I was just like, holy shit, Trump's gotten fat and wears his pants funny. And then it was like,
it's a big miss. How do you miss that you put your pants on backwards? If the button's back there.
There's no way. Yeah.
There's no zipper there. That is very weird.
I don't think he put his pants. I don't think you could put pants like that on backwards, unless is Donald Trump so old? And I mean, he's always walked kind of stiff. Have you noticed that? And he's very good at kind of hiding it physically, right? Like, and it's one of those things where like you can't tell, right? You really can't tell looking at Trump physically if he's walking awkwardly because he's got this like he's this bravado walk and he's puffing out his chest, or like, you know, when he stands off stage, he waves and he stands with his hands at his sides. Yeah. And it's like, I'm on display. I'm standing here. You know, it's a very distinct
weird swagger,
like, yeah,
all the time. I don't get
yeah, and so but he could be hiding physical discomfort in this. It could be it might not. He's got some stiffness or injury or pain or something. But if those are normal pants, you literally cannot put them on backwards, right? Like normal dress pants.
I mean,
you have to reach behind your back. No, and Donald Trump is not that flexible, I'm pretty sure. But like you would have to reach behind your back to the bottom of your butt crack. I mean, and then like zip up your flop. Like
it's a joke.
It's no. Now, if they were stretch pants, right?
Okay.
Then you could do it. Like if Donald Trump was like, you know what? Make me fake pants that look like real pants that I can just pull on without having to bend over too much. Or I'm, you know how they say normal people put on their pants one leg at a time, just like everybody else. I'm going to put my pants on 2 legs at a time because I'm Donald Trump. And you know he's got specially made pants.
I I get the elastic pants after the it hurts my belly. The
But-
buttons hurt my belly. There
right,
could be a
sure.
medical reason this guy's not. wearing
He's old and
buttons.
fat. He wants to look good in a suit.
He's got enough money
He's
now
got
to have
as
me.
much money as it takes to be comfortable. I don't hold this against. I say good for you, creative wardrobe. Great. Then you put it on backwards, and you might not notice.
Yeah,
That's funny.
that's funny.
Welcome to the world of being an ex-president. California, CNN.com, more than 600 earthquakes have shaken the California-Mexico border since Saturday, the largest registering 5.3. We might come back to some of these in our financial block tomorrow for Tuesday, as is our habit that I'm starting to enjoy getting into. COVID Monday, Wednesday, Economics Tuesday, Catch Up Thursday, Good News Friday. I like that layout. Reuters, Google to change global advertising practices in landmark antitrust deal. I don't know if I want to bring this back for good news, but study finds gluten-free generation, number of children with celiac disease doubled over past 25 years. I want to read the story more thoroughly and be like, okay, what did we do wrong?
Yeah, let's dig into that.
The number of gluten-intolerant children has doubled over the last 25 years. Yeah, I think we got to come back to this one. USA Today fights subpoena aimed at readers of Florida FBI shooting story. Just so you know, this is where government is at with its intrusiveness. They're demanding the details on who accessed articles. And this is the current legal fight. This is how little privacy you have left. Government is fighting over whether they can find out what news stories you read. Yeah.
Isn't that great?
New York Times, similar story. U.S. put gag order on Times executives amid fight over email logs. Hey, t.me/Adam versus the man. This is a story. If you're going to get into it, get into it. In the last week of the Trump administration and continuing under Biden, the Justice Department fought a secret legal battle to obtain the email logs of 4 New York Times reporters in a hunt for their sources. Fuck you. AP, Justice Department says it'll no longer seize reporters' records. Oh, isn't that nice? Yeah, you caught us. We'll never do it again. Yeah. And with that, let's get to Jim in Phoenix with azcentral.com, a story that he was covering himself. Massive fire in West Phoenix spurs largest response in fire department history. If you were in the Producers Club, you would have seen Jim's exclusive videos about this. There he is, showing them. He's got to show them off now. Live on scene. This was the largest response number of trains carrying lumber and recycling yards on fire. And I was like, yes, I can see the price of lumber going up in this video, which is a story we're also going to cover tomorrow with inflation and commodities. And with that, producer Jim, give us the notes, sir.
What's going on? Yeah, I had to show my exclusive live footage there, just so you know. Join us, t.me/Adam vs. Man. That's a public channel that anybody's welcome to join. Patreon.com/Adam vs. Man has the links, the way you can join the show and join the private producers club for $10 a month. You'll get 15% off and free shipping on everything you order from merch from the website once that's up and ready by being a better patron. CigarFederation.com comes with promo code Adam10 to get 10% off of your entire order there. So definitely take advantage of that. Instagram, search at the Garden of Freedom to find out everything that's going on through pictures and videos up there in Gardenia, what's going on with Adam. TheCrypto6.com, those Bitcoin church guys that were rated still need your help. So visit that website, give them click all the buttons, check all the stuff. GoGreenEnergyOnline.com, best website on the planet for do-it-yourselfers to learn about solar power and micro wind power and self-sustaining off-grid grinning. GoGreenEnergyOnline.com. Thank you. I'm glad Monday is almost over.
All right, Joey Lee, any more comment entries? Do we have any good captions, or was it just a fun thing for us to bullshit about on the show?
I like the caption
Ed is
before had, and I already named it, and Jim should have it. It's queued up. It's there. It's official. It's me.
You have to be in the club because I didn't have time. I had so much other stuff going on, and we're too late. I got a minute left. So
where you can hang out with 1054, the winner of today's contest. What was the caption, dear?
The caption was Mrs. Niemeyer.
Mrs. Niemeyer.
Going to look for her vehicle. Trying to remember
where she parked her killdozer. All right, and on Good News in History from GoodNewsNetwork.org, it was on this day in 1776. Remember, June 7, before July 4th. It was on this day, 245 years ago. Richard Henry Lee of Virginia proposed to the Continental Congress a resolution calling for a Declaration of Independence. And on this day in 1965, the U.S. Supreme Court reached a landmark decision on married couples' right to privacy that effectively legalized the use of contraception. Pretty major leap forward that recently in American history. Mwah, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.